Well, a good Saturday to you. Thanks for checking in with Fox 26 for our tropical update. I'm meteorologist John Dawson, and of course we're here every day of hurricane season, a little bit after 4 p.m. Central Time, bringing you the latest on what's happening out in the tropics. And it's been a little quiet recently, but the National Hurricane Center has now identified a new area that they're watching a little bit closer than the rest of the Atlantic basin. So that's what we're going to kind of start with, kind of focus on a little bit as we get going here. The scenario or the setup that we have is across the southeastern U.S. So let's get oriented real quick. Here, of course, is out in the Atlantic Ocean. Here's the east coast of the U.S., Florida down to the southeast. There's a front that's kind of stalled out for the most part. And along that front, this little area of low pressure that's trying to get better organized. And so right now it's not tropical. It's not closed at the surface. It's sort of more in the upper levels of the atmosphere. And again, it's trying to get to be a little bit more of a low pressure system from top to bottom in our atmosphere. But for right now, it's sort of working on it. The problem is it doesn't have a lot of opportunity, a very long amount of time to sort of get itself more organized and become a tropical system. So we're really only going to have about 2 to 3 days a window that we're going to see that. So what most likely is going to happen is that area is going to continue to move out into the Atlantic a little bit, and then it will be a little bit more favored where we could see some development here in this yellow shading. So officially the National Hurricane Center identifying this area, again, technically off the coast and into the Atlantic, and giving it a 30% chance really over the next 7 days that it could form into a tropical system. Now, as it continues to meander into this yellow shaded area, it will continue to be creating some rainy situations for the coast here, especially the Carolinas, I think, or where we're really going to be focusing on watching some of that rain. So if you're in this part of the country, or maybe you're headed there in the next couple of days, that's sort of what we need to watch overall as far as that development. As mentioned, officially this goes for the next 7 days, the Hurricane Center identifying the possibility. And our exclusive Fox weather model does a pretty good idea of sort of picking up on that just a little bit on where that spin is. Now, you don't get too focused here on our L. That gives you a kind of an idea of some of that spin, but also watching the showers and the storms behind that a little bit, we sort of see. But you kind of get the general picture here on where this is going and where the possibilities are. And yes, if you're already thinking ahead, well, where would it go if it does become something tropical? It's going to keep going the direction that it's going, right? It's going to keep going out into the Atlantic. We like that. We like to have the tropical systems hanging out over open waters in the Atlantic. That's a good place for it. So that would be the trend that we would continue to watch. And again, at the moment, we're talking about a 30% chance that we could be seeing that. And you see that rotation again happening with our computer model, kind of trying to figure out what's going on here. That could be something that hangs around into Wednesday as well, as far as what we're looking at. Saharan dust is certainly something that we're still kind of monitoring, kind of keeping an eye on a little bit. Looks like my graphics have got a little bit of a hiccup in it here. Not able to kind of show you that Saharan dust at the moment. I'll have to kind of check into that, get that worked out a little bit. But the bottom line is we've had some thick Saharan dust most of the season, and we're going to continue to have another layer or so of that for another week or two. Maybe let's just say a week, about a 7-day period, and then things begin to get a little bit more cleared out. So while it kind of feels like a quiet start, it's actually been pretty average as far as what we would expect to find on a typical hurricane season. Now, in the last 10 years, we have had more activity by this point in the season than what our bigger averages would show us. But especially if you compare this to last year, it's really not that far off of what's been happening, because last year specifically, there were 11 hurricanes, and 10 of those happened after July. The one, of course, for us here in Houston, remember Beryl, that was the big one. That was the one that definitely made a difference and an impact on us in Houston. But after Beryl, the rest of the hurricanes that happened last year all happened after July. And so we're sort of getting into that time period, and most of even that activity happened in September. We did have it was a little bit of a quieter August than we would typically expect to see on a season like last year, but it certainly picked up once we got into September. So yes, officially so far, we've had those 3 named tropical storms, and they've been relatively short-lived, everything that we've seen. So here's the August pattern as far as named storms are concerned. We're watching really a lot out here in the Atlantic as far as where we could see that form. But also, if we take a look at just hurricane formation, this is a zone that is of interest, and that's again where we're kind of looking for some possible development over the next couple of days. This is not a scenario in which we are expecting a hurricane, but again, that's something that we're kind of keeping an eye on. So August, this is those formation patterns that we look at. If we go all the way back to the 1850s, this is when our reliable weather recording has been taking place. We notice that that highest peak average is September the 10th. So we're going to really start ramping things up. Now that we're here at August 1st, we'll expect to see, if you just look at the history books on what we would expect to find happening. And as mentioned, 3 tropical storms is what we've done so far. Dexter will be the next name that we use. Right now, we're still only calling that 30% chance of that area that we're watching in the Atlantic to develop. But if it does continue to strengthen, organize, then we would develop that and, of course, give it the next name if it reaches that strength, and that would be Dexter. All right, it's Saturday. We gave you the update. Tomorrow, Sunday, I'll be right back here again. Look for me a little bit after 4 p.m. Central Time, and we'll keep you updated here on Fox 26.